Dang it. I'm trying to get a good clip for starting my Facebook Lives that looks different than my typical white shirt look. And Molly Mahoney, my good old friend, Facebook Live ninja, prepared performer, she always does some kind of thingy that sticks. I can't make it work. Anyway, listen, this is part two of my three traps that are killing your business serious. In part one, we talked about the passion trap and how you're not supposed to follow passion. You're supposed to follow opportunities. That's where you really get traction. And how most people that give you follow the passion advice are totally full of crap. And why to follow the opportunity advice is much better. We talked about it last week. Today, I want to talk about the second trap, the possibility trap. Adam Urbanski also knows the Millionaire Marketing Mentor. And if you love this training, go ahead and hit the like buttons, hit the love buttons, give me some of those likes and hearts. Yes. Comment where you're dialing in from, where you're watching from. I'll probably take a look and check in. Also, if you're watching a replay, type in replay. I nearly always come back and engage. I should nearly always. Sometimes I'm not as religious about doing this as I used to be. I'm frankly just get a little busy. Hang on, let me turn it off here. And let's see what else I can tell you. So if you like what I'm sharing with you, if you like this whole idea of getting traction fast, we've got a bunch of opportunities for you. Number one is our traction program. This is if you kind of from the, I would say the pre-revenue and early revenue stages in your business, right? So if you like between 0 and 25, 0 and $50,000 a year, our traction program might be for you. If you're between 50 and 150, or 50 and maybe 200,000, our revenue rev up, where we help you take last year's revenue and help you make it in 12 weeks. And if you kind of at the $200,000 a year or so, this is our Masters Forum program. Either way, if you're interested in any of those, just let me know, comment more info, or one of those three names, Traction Rev Up, Masters, or just DM me and we'll have a conversation. Anyway, let's talk about today's trap. Now, listen, I'm almost embarrassed to say, but I've got nearly 10 pages of notes to cover today's topic. Like, absolutely, positively crazy. This is a big thing. So again, last time I talked about the passion trap, right? This is like you so in love with your baby that you want the world to love it too, and you think it's the most talented, the most beautiful, the most genius baby ever, aka your business, and quite frankly, or your offer, or quite frankly, quite frankly, it sucks. Right? It's ugly. No one is willing to tell you this, and you're unwilling to put it into the marketplace fast enough to test it, and it's literally killing you. You're not supposed to look for what you love to turn it into business. You're supposed to fall in love with an opportunity that comes your way, and turn that into a real successful business. So, again, comment if you're watching this. Let me know where you're watching this from, and I'll chime in on your comments from time to time. All right. Now, let's talk about this possibility trap. I've got some notes. I actually have them on my computer, so I'm going to be scrolling here a little bit. All right. Um, just let me see if I can make this work so I can actually read my notes while looking at you. All right. So the possibility trap, very big deal. You've got actually two dimensions here. Number one is internal. All right. So if you are this multi-passionate, multifaceted entrepreneur, a person that's got many skills, many talents over the course of your life, you did a bunch of things, and now you realize that, well, I could be doing a lot of things. I'm not quite sure which one to focus on. How the heck do you decide which one to follow? I'll talk about this in a moment. I'll give you examples of companies that started out of passion and then they wised up and follow an opportunity. The second dimension of the possibility trap is the external possibilities. Like once you decide to do something, there are so many possibilities. Like how do you actually package what it is that you do into an offer, right? How do you deliver it? Who do you choose to work with? Individuals, groups, companies. What's your business model, and what kind of marketing techniques do you need to focus on? Right? Do you need to go speaking? Do you need to do free webinars? Do you need to post on social media? Do you do direct mail? Like all of those opportunities that trip you up. Like which one to focus on? So let's talk about those. All right, Daphne, great to see you. Linda, awesome to see you here. My gosh, Linda is a legend in the industry as well. So awesome to have you here. So this internal trap, before I tell you a little bit more how to solve it, I want to talk a little bit about examples of companies that shifted, pivoted, and chose one opportunity to focus on, and maybe even change the opportunity midstream to actually get traction. So I mentioned Facebook. Now, few people know that Facebook actually started as something called Fast Face Mash or something like this. And it was essentially kind of Zuckerberg's version of Hot or Not. Like you put two faces together and judge, I like this one, I don't like this one. This one is beautiful, this one is ugly. Now, again, imagine if he continued with that, probably wouldn't be Facebook today, but he changed that. He pivoted into what it is today and along the way. Starbucks. Now, you probably don't know that Starbucks started as an espresso machine and espresso bean selling company. And it started like in 71, I believe. And it wasn't until about early 80s that Howard Schultz went to Italy and fell in love with Italian European style coffee houses, and he came back to US and just realized, why gosh, we don't have anything like this in here where people can sit, people can come in, and in nice, beautiful, friendly and atmosphere with beautiful music playing, we can, sip fancy foo-foo coffees out of mugs. Didn't exist. He pivoted. Now we've got Starbucks on every freaking corner, right? Twitter. Did you know that Twitter, I know for a fact you didn't know that. Twitter started as a service called Audio. ODEO, I think, something like this. Now, they were designed to allow people to subscribe to podcasts or something like this. And quite frankly, they not only were not getting traction, they were losing traction because iTunes was coming on board, and iTunes was just basically taking over the podcast, the beginning podcast world. So Twitter, they give themselves 2 week notice to all employees, and they said, like, we've got to come up with something different or we pretty much are dead. And this is where, the two guys, Dorsey and Stone, came up with the idea of this microblogging, 140 characters. They put it out there. Dang, it took off. The rest is history. Here's a couple other examples really quick of choosing something versus, trying to be everything to everyone. You probably don't know that the company you might be using today to store and share photos, again, Facebook has encroached on the business a little bit, and so did Google, but Flickr, yes, Flickr, the photo storing and serving company, started as a company called Game Never Ending. And it was something about purchasing, following stuff. Bottom line, it was so freaking complicated that they couldn't figure out how to make it work. But part of the service was actually sharing photos. So they stripped everything else and just turned it into a photo storing and photo serving business. Pretty cool, right? So that's just a few examples of companies. Actually, I got one more. This is a good one. Uh, Probably growing up in United States, or if you have kids, you have heard of this little thing called Play-Doh. I know my kids played with it. Now, I bet you didn't know that Play-Doh was actually invented in 1930s, and it wasn't a arts and crafts item. Play-Doh is actually a wall cleaner. It was designed to clean suds from people that had coal heaters in their homes. And as people went into the 40s and 50s and coal heaters were replaced by oil and electricity and some other things, there was no more need for wall cleaner called Play-Doh. All right. It actually was called, I think it was called Play-Doh or something like this. There was the name actually did exist. And then what happened as the company was struggling, going like, what do we do? We're going to go out of business. One of the owner's sister-in-law or cousin or something like this said, well, like in an offhand comment said, I use it in my class in kindergarten with kids for arts and crafts projects. And they went like, Eureka, let's distribute cans of our wall cleaner to kindergartners for arts and craft projects. And the rest is history. Today, they sold over 2 billion cans of Play-Doh. All right. Again, they focus on an opportunity in front of them. So let's talk about solving this internal possibilities dilemma. How do you do this? How do you overcome this trap? Number one, you want to ask yourself which one of your passions overlays an opportunity that you have the capability that's kind of like for the least amount of effort, where can you gain the biggest buck? What are the opportunities? What's the playing field, right? Number two, what stops many people is this: they think in categories of this or that. This, so if I focus on this passion or this talent of mine, then I'm essentially wasting the other passions and the other talents. So, kind of the category: if I do this, then I can't do that. And instead, ask yourself, which one now? Which one now? Which of your passion, talent, skills you want to be cashing in on right now? That's it. Give yourself time, focus, energy to develop that one into a thriving business. And then once you have this model in place, you can go and take another passion or skill that you have, and an opportunity overlaid over an opportunity, and monetize this. This is essentially what what people like Richard Branson would do, right? Now that goes even bigger example. But once he has a model for taking an idea and turning it into a business, then he can go and do it again and again and again and again and again to the tune of 300 different companies. Get this? Focus on one thing. So, um, another important thing about overcoming the trap is focus on, don't be afraid to shift. Don't be afraid to shift and change. This is what I talked about in the introduction, kind of this intrigue. It goes against human nature. We don't like to change. In fact, when I started my business, I shifted. And I have to tell you that for about a year, I watched, actually, I used to tell a story that there was someone I met networking, and like within the year that I have known them, they probably shifted about 5 times. Like every 2 months, they were in a new business. And I thought to myself, what a flake. Like, what a flake. Meanwhile, I was having a hard time gaining traction, but I was sticking to my guns. Like, no, I chose this. I'm going to go after that. Even though for that 1 year, my marketplace was telling me, you're doing the wrong thing. You got to do something different. We're going to give you money for doing this other thing. And I was like, no, no, no. I'm not doing another thing. Here's what I'm doing, stubbornly, like an idiot, right? It took a life to hit me over the head with a 2x4 to finally go like, all right, I need to shift. So this is where the external part comes in. I want to talk about this really quick because that's important as well. I don't know what's going on here. All right. Lisbeth, great to see you here. Charistella, long time no talk. Perfect. So this uh, external. So you've got all sorts of different opportunities, and one of those opportunities, what markets you go on, what you go after, and what services to offer them. So few people know today that my company, Marketing Mentors, started in 2000, but it didn't start as the Marketing Mentors. It started as the company called Insight Development Group, and Insight was spelled INCITE, as Insight a Riot, and it was a company focused on consulting for corporations in areas of leadership, communications, team building, and productivity. Yes, that's right. Mr. Entrepreneur, small business owner, went after the big guys and wanted to teach them how to build teams and be more productive. I was miserable and I hated it. Meanwhile, I developed something called the strategic byproduct, which is kind of how do you often monetize or turn this external trap into an opportunity for yourself. So the strategic byproduct of mine was further harnessing my skills of developing, grow, and marketing small businesses. And I needed to get better at it because I needed to grow my consulting company. And as I was going along, I was meeting with my friends, colleagues, consultants, coaches, and they were repeatedly telling me like, "Hey, put a seminar together. Like, what are you doing? Teach us your tactics. Teach us what are you? Can you teach me what are you doing? How did you do that? How did you do that?" And I was like, "Well, no, that's not what I do. I do this." It literally took about a year, almost over a year, before I finally, in one of those meetings, said, "You know what? Just here we go. I'm going to do a seminar. Give me $200. I'm going to do a seminar." And guess what? People wanted to give me money and come to the seminar learning my marketing stuff. And I was like, maybe that's what I should be doing, right? So again, a shift, a focus on a strategic byproduct. Here are a couple of companies you might know. Groupon. Did you know that Groupon started as kind of a what is it called? Crowdfunding companies. And they were miserable and they were failing, epically failing, trying to do this crowdfunding thing called Pivot Point. Or I'm sorry, The Point, which was that they were funding good social causes, but they needed to be a certain point met before, well, typical crowdfunding, right? It didn't work. They couldn't make it work. It was the idea was too early for the marketplace. But then literally before they were to close the doors, like they were running out of money, and they were like, what else can we do with this? So what if and one of them I think went down to like grab a bite to eat or something, and they struck a deal with the vendor that said like, hey, if I bring you X number of orders, will we get a special deal, or will we give us special price? And they were like, yeah, if you give me 100 orders or 50 or whatever it was. So they put that offer out there. Literally, like within half a day, they took the code of the other company, they put it up on a website, very crude, very ugly. The center said, "Here's a deal for a pizza. If we get 50 people to order pizza, then this pizza is like for $5 instead of $25." And guess what? Boom! It took off, and then Groupon was born. They realized this is the opportunity. This is where it exists. Instagram again. Did you know Instagram started as a company called Bourbon? That's right. It was sort of an extension to a gaming called Mafia Wars, right? And as they were running this bourbon extension, whatever it was so complex once again that the founders were thinking there's just too many options. No one knows what to do, too many possibilities. And they decided to do a very risky move. And they said, let's strip all the options except for one. Let's allow people to upload photos. Ding, 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 ding. They realized this is what it is. So they withdrew from the Mafia Wars game, and they turned it into a standalone platform called Instagram. And the rest is history. You probably have heard of them a little bit. Here's another great, two more, actually three more really good examples. By the way, give me an idea. If you're liking this, just say, this is really good stuff. I'm learning. I'm getting ideas. And if not, just say, this totally sucks. Either way, let me know something here. All right. So, three more examples. Wrigley Gum, which today is about I don't know exactly what it's like, multi-billion-dollar company. Just the brand, just selling the chewing gum, Wrigley Gum. Did you know that Wrigley Gum did not start as Wrigley Gum? The Wrigley Gum guy, William Wrigley Jr., was a door-to-door book salesman. I'm sorry, not a book salesman. He was not a book salesman. Wrigley was selling soap and baking powder. He was a soap and baking powder salesman, and he was looking for an advantage. So he figured that with orders, he would give clients this gum, this pack of gum. It wasn't even his gum. It was like a different product. And then he realized that people who actually liked the gum better, they were more interested, like, hey, do you have any of this gum? Than they were interested in the soap and baking powder. So what did he do? He went on, created his own brand, Juicy, what was it called? I've got notes here. Juicy Fruit, Spearmint, and Double Mint, the most popular brands of Wrigley Gum, one of the most recognized brands in the world, Wrigley Gum, right? And that's it. The rest is history. He developed his brand, and again, multi-billion dollars in sale. Now, two other companies that pivoted. Slack. If you're somewhere in the corporate market, you're very familiar with a kind of a messaging communication tool. Guess what? I don't know why so many technology companies come to mind, but Slack was started of the company called Glitch. And man, right there with the name Glitch, you could have predicted where it's going to go. It's going to be one effing glitch, right? So Glitch was a total failed video game venture. It just did not work. But again, as they were to go out of business and close doors, they realized they have one cool thing. They developed internally this messaging tool for their development team to communicate, which was just genius. They loved it. And they were like, well, what if we just turn that into a product? Again, they took something, a strategic byproduct, something they needed to develop for themselves to communicate with the world, to get good at something, and then they turn it into the main offer. One last example. I've got lots of women following. You're probably familiar with a company called Avon, the cosmetic company. Now, I bet you ladies, you don't know that Avon was actually started by a guy. That's right. And do I have his name? Let's see. David McConnell. David McConnell was a hired book sales guy, one of those solicitors that was going door to doors back in the day, knocking on the doors, going like, "Hey, I've got some books for sale. You want to buy them?" Right? And because guess who was at home most of the time when he was knocking on doors? Women, right? Back then, women were just at home, didn't work. So, as he knocked on the doors and they let him in and he was offering them books, he offered them samples of perfumes. to go like, well, if you get those books, I'm going to give you those perfumes. And then he again recognized, wait a second, they're more interested in my perfume in those samples that they are in the books. So he started recruiting those stay-at-home ladies to become his sales force and just starting selling, introducing those perfumes to one another. And there we go. Avon was born. Again, he looked at opportunity. He looked at where the money was coming from, what the market was already naturally interested, and started doing and started offering this, turning that into a business. So on this part, I want to share with you, how do you overcome this um, possibilities trap on the external way, right? How do you do this? And I was just teaching my clients this is all about getting traction rapidly. And there are three ways. Number one, the first thing you want to do is go through the process of rapid ideation, rapid data research, market research, where you determine who you want to do business with, what's the core offer you're going to make to them, kind of a basic price points packages thing. Rapid ideation, right? You just come up with an idea and boom, you go for it. Second thing you do rapid iteration, which means that you put something out there, and as you put it out there, as you get feedback, you create version 2 and version 3 and version 4. And by the way, the beautiful thing about it is that you're not reinventing the wheel. You're not scrapping the product or offer or service or program. You're just improving it. You're making it better. You're modifying it based on the feedback from the marketplace, right? Which what most people do, they put something out there. It doesn't probably work as well as they would want it to make it to work the first time. And they just give up. And they go like, well, let me reinvent the wheel. Let me do something different. No. What you want to do is take the same thing you just did and improve it and improve it and improve it again. And then the third thing is, I call it this heuristic problem solving, and you can look it up online. Essentially, look, if you were a brain surgeon, you would have to go through 12 to 15 years of schooling, lots of practice on the cadavers before you are ever allowed to practice on a real living human being to cut their head open and operate on the brain. And rightfully so, because nothing but perfection will do. However, in most of the situations where we deal with business growth, actually imperfection is desirable because it buys you speed. So what you want to do is rely more on this trial and error method, but rapidly prototyping things, right? So hence this heuristic problem solving. Um, just an ounce of deployment, an ounce of action will always be better than a pound of theorizing and brewing ideas in your head. So that's it. That's the big idea behind the second trap, the possibilities trap. Avoid being stuck exploring an infinitum your internal passions and skill sets, and don't be stuck in indefinitely exploring what are the business models, what are the opportunities, how should you package things. Make some basic choices, and then again come up with a basic idea, put it to the market, ideate, all right, iterate, and then trial and error. Your market will tell you each time how to course correct, and don't be afraid to pivot, shift, modify to capitalize on those opportunities. So there are three final lessons I want to share with you. Number one is, so many times when I have conversations with people who want to do something, they start telling me why they can't do things because they don't have something in place. So instead, focus on what you do have in place. You do have skills, you do have opportunities, you do have resources, you do have strategic byproducts that you can immediately start offering and turning into cash. Number two, um, sometimes you got to cut your losses. Again, when I started this business, it took me, I say a year, but it was really about a year and a half of me just wising up, going like, what am I doing? This clearly isn't working. Clearly it's too hard to put together. Clearly isn't necessarily fulfilling to me. And I was doing this because I thought I was following my passion. My passion is to transform, people and teach them how to communicate and get along better and be productive. What a pile of horse crap. Instead, I'm doing this every single day. I'm transforming lives. I just chose a different vehicle. I chose marketing, training, and consulting and coaching as my vehicle to transform people's lives. All right. So sometimes you got to cut your losses and just shift to something that's easier to harness. All right. Which brings me to the third big lesson for the day, or takeaway, or kind of a thing to do for you, which is, follow the money. And I know it's such a cliche or seems such a shallow thing to say, But in this society, as we function today, if you don't have the money, it's really hard to make a lot of things accomplished. One way or another, even in the non for profit business, you have to raise funds. Not for profit companies cannot do anything without actually having funds, having revenue, having donations. Everything is caused or shifted or impacted by the almighty buck. So, once again, focus on what you do have, shift when necessary, cut your losses, and go after something different. And number three, focus on where you make revenue. Focus on the money and realize this: the amount of revenue you generate in your business is your marketplace feedback for the value you provide in that marketplace. So if you generate very little, guess what? This isn't something to be highly mighty about and go in the wall. Look how pious I am. Look how little money I make. Look how much I struggle. F it. This is ridiculous. Essentially, it means I'm being stupid. I don't make a jack of a difference in the marketplace, and therefore I make zero money. So buy into this thing that when you make a shitload of money, you shouldn't apologize. You should be proud because that's the marketplace telling you, holy smoke, you really provide a lot of opportunities in the marketplace. Here's our reward. Here's how we reward you for it. All right. There you have it. Jack, great to have you here. Miriam, awesome. Thanks for watching. And ladies and gents, once again, hit that little like button, hit the little love button. Leave me with a comment. What's your big takeaway from watching this whole thing? Where have you gotten stuck in the past in either a passion trap or the possibility trap? And probably later on this week, in a couple of days, I'm going to come back with the third trap and tell you what it is. It also starts with the letter P, and it's going to complete my three-part series on this particular thing. All right. That's all I've got for you for today. Here's to your success. Cheers.